So welcome back to our lessons on fractions, and now today we are going to be looking at what is called inverse or indirect proportion. Okay, so let's take a look at how this looks. With inverse proportion, as the one quantity increases, the other one decreases. Okay, and as the one increases, the other, this should say decreases, this should say decreases. The other increases. So just watch my hands. As the one goes up, the other one goes down. As the one goes down, the other one goes up. Let's look at an example of this, okay? When some children are shared, when some sweets are shared between 24 children, each of them gets 6 sweets. Now the question here is, how many sweets would each child get if there were only 8 children? Let's ask ourselves, would they get more sweets or fewer sweets if there were fewer children? They would get more sweets each. Okay, that makes sense. It always makes sense. Now, because this is inverse proportion, we're going to use an inverse operation. Listen carefully to this. How do we get from 24 to 8? We divide by 3. Okay? Now, if we divide by 3 on this side, we must times by 3 on this side. Okay, so we do the inverse operation. Now, 6 times 3 is 18. Okay, so if there are fewer children, more sweets. They said, what if each child received 12 sweets? Okay, I'm going to leave a gap here because previously we found 1 each time. How do we get from 6 to 1? How do we get from 6 to 1? We divide by 6. Now, if we divide by 6 on that side, we must times by 6 on this side. 24 times 6 is 144 sweets. Okay, 144 children. So, if there was just if there were 144 children, each child would get 1 sweet. Okay, so there's obviously 144 sweets here. Okay, so now how do we get from 1 to 12? What must we do? We must multiply by 12. If we multiply by 12 on this side, we must divide by 12 on this side, and we get 12. All right, so if there are 12 children, they each get 12 sweets. If there are 8 children, they each get 18 sweets. Okay, right, now we're going to ask you to pause the video and try this one. So now there's some Coca-Cola, all right, and when there are 15 children, each child gets 200 milliliters. Okay, now what would happen if there were 6 children? Okay, and also, how many children were there if each child got 120 milliliters? So what we're doing here is I'm leaving some gaps because we want you to work out the 1 here and the 1 here. Okay, pause the video, but remember that this is inverse proportion. Talk to the person next to you, discuss it, and see if you can work out how many milliliters each child will get if there are 6 children. And also, if each person got 120 milliliters and the Coke was shared equally, how many people were there? Okay, pause the video and have a go. Okay, so how do we get from 15 to 1? Well, we are dividing by 15. Now, if we're going to divide by 15 there, we must times by 15 here. And we hope that you might be able to do this without a calculator. Because remember, 15 times 2 is just 30. And then there's the 2 zeros on the end. So it's actually 3,000. 3,000 milliliters. Guys, this is 3 liters. So that's how much Coke we're sharing. If there's one person, and that one person is greedy and they're not sharing it with anyone, they're going to have 3 liters, 3,000 milliliters. Kodwa, what if there are 6 children? Okay, now what must we do to 1 to go from 1 to 6? We must times by 6. Because this is inverse proportion, the more children, the less Coke. On this side, we must divide by 6. When we divide 3,000 by 6, we get 500. So if there are only 6 children, each child gets 500 milliliters. Okay, now we want to work out how many children were there if each child got 120 milliliters. So let's see, what would I need to do to get from here? It doesn't actually matter which line we go with, but let's go from here down to there. What would I do to get from 200 to 1? That's right, I would divide by 200. Now if I divide by 200 on that side, I must times by 200 on this side. Okay, and in fact, there would be 3,000 children. Okay, there would be 3,000 children if they had 1 milliliter each. Okay, now how do I get from 1 to 120? We're going to times by 120. And if I times by 120 on this side, because it's indirect or inverse proportion, I must divide by 120. So let's have a look at what is 3,000 divided by 120. Okay, so 3,000 divided 120. It's 25 milliliters. That's not 25 milliliters, it's 25 children. All right, 25 children get 120 milliliters each. Okay, right. Here we are now going to talk about rate. Okay, and we've got this situation where Thabo runs 70 meters in 13 seconds. Andile runs 124 meters in 23 seconds. Who is faster? Okay, Nancy Kinga, we can't just look at this and say who's faster, because although Andile covered more land, more ground, he ran for longer. Okay, if this was 23 seconds, then we would be able to make a comparison, because they took the same amount of time, and obviously Andile is faster. Kodwa, it's not. Okay, or if this was 124 meters, and they both did the same distance, and Thabo only took 13 seconds, then Thabo is faster. Okay, so what can we do here to be able to compare their two speeds? And let's think about making a 1 here. All right, and now is this one, let's just quickly talk, is this inverse or is this direct? If Andile runs for longer, does he go further? Yes. This is back to direct proportion for both of them. If they run further, if they run for longer, they will go further. If they only run for a short period of time, they won't go as far. Right. If they only run a short distance, it won't take them very long. They're both going down together, or they're both going up together, back to direct proportion. So we want to get a 1 here and a 1 here. Now, how do we get a 1 here? Because it's direct, we divide by 23. So on this side we must, because it's direct, we must do exactly the same thing, divide by 23. Okay, over here, how do we get from 13 to 1? We're going to divide by 13. And over here we must divide by 13. Okay, now let's do those numbers. Okay, 124 divided by 23, we get 5,391. Okay, 5,391. Now listen to what that is. That is how many meters Andile runs in 1 second. Now we're going to work out how many meters Thabo runs in 1 second. And remember what we're going to do? We're going to take our 70 and we're going to divide it by 13. 70 divide 13. And what do we get? We get 5,38 meters. 5,385 meters. Now we can compare these. because this is how far Thabo went in 1 second, okay? And this is how far Andile went in 1 second. Who went further? Andile went further. Who's fastest? Andile is fastest. Okay, Andile's speed, his rate, is actually 5,391 meters per second. Every second, that's how far he goes. Okay, Thabo goes 5,38. Okay, right. We're hoping that this is making sense. Okay, we want you to pause the video. We want you to try this one. So here's some jam, okay? And it comes in 2 different tins. And we've got the cost for each. So the small tin is 410 grams. And it costs 45 Rand. The big tin is 800 grams. And it costs 88 Rand. Now we want to know which jam is cheaper. We want you to pause the video and just try this. Remember that this is a direct proportion. As we have more jam, it will cost more. Less jam will cost less. Okay. Okay, so let's take a look. What we're going to do is we're going to work out what 1 gram of this jam costs. And we're going to work out what 1 gram of this jam costs. To get what 1 gram of this jam costs, we're going to divide by 410. If we divide by 410 there, we must divide by 410 here. So 45 divided by 410. And over here, to get from 800 to 1, we're going to divide by 800. If we do it on that side, we must do it on this side. 88 divided by 800. Let's see what these numbers come to. Right, let's do the small tin first. 45 divide 410. Okay, and we get, it's comma 109. It's about, so comma 109, comma 1, it's almost 11 cents, okay? Because this is rands, so it's, let's say 11 cents. And let's look at 88 divided by 800. What we get here is, this one is 11 cents, okay? This other one, I'm just going to go back to it and just show you, sorry, go back to it and just show you. The other one was, comma 10976. 10, comma 97. Okay, so the small tin, 10,98 cents, not centimeters, cents per gram. The big tin, 11 cents per gram. So the small tin is cheaper, the small one. Which one is cheaper? The small one. Okay, right. So in the next lesson, we're going to look at just a couple of questions. They may be a little bit tricky, and it will be our last. In fact, because we're so close, we will carry on now, and we will do these 2 questions today, and then we'll be finished with fractions. Okay, so the last concept here, and it's a little bit of a tricky one, but it's around working out the rate. So when we worked out, in the previous examples, we worked out the jam, we worked out a rands per gram, and here we worked out a meters per second. Those are rates. So if we know Mary takes 3 hours to paint a wall, John takes 5 hours to paint the same wall, okay? How long will it take if they both paint together? Now, that's not all that obvious, okay? But if we could work out, if we gave the wall an area and we're going to use 15, all right? So we're going to let the wall be 15 meters squared. And the reason for 15 is that it's a common multiple of 3 and 5. So Mary takes 3 hours to paint the wall. Okay. Now, if we just drew a little table here for Mary, and so time and wall, or let's go for time and area. Okay, so Mary, 3 hours to do 15 meters squared. Okay, but John, let's do another little table here for John. John takes, so this is John, his time and area to do the 15 meters squared. John takes 5 hours. Okay, all right, so now let's just take a look. We cannot add those things, but if we were to work out how long, okay, it would take Mary to do 1 meter squared. So we're dividing by 15, this is direct proportion, and we're going to divide by 15. So we get 3/15. 3/15 is 1/5. So Mary does 1/5 sorry guys. What we actually want is we want to see how much Mary paints in 1 hour. So to get from 3 to 1, we divide by 3. So Mary does 5 meters squared per hour. John, if we divide by 5 to get 1 here, we get 3. John does 3 meters squared per hour. So in each hour together, they do 8 meters squared. Okay, 8 meters squared per 1 hour. Okay, so if we want to now work out what this is going to look like, well, we've got together, so this is for both of them. We've got time and we've got the area, and they do 8 meters in 1 hour, and we want to get an area of 15. So exactly as we did last time, let's get a 1 here. How are we going to get a 1 here? We're going to divide by 8. So this will be 1/8. And how are we going to get from 1/8? From 1 to 15, we're going to multiply by 15. So our final answer here will be 1/8 times 15. Right. And 1/8 times 15 is just a little bit less than 2 hours. Okay. So that's how we do these questions. The next one is exactly the same. We'll do it together. All right. So this is a hot tap and a cold tap. So let's just have a look. So the hot, I'll do the hot with a red pen. Okay, so we've got liters and we've got time. Okay, and the hot tap fills the bath in 40 minutes. Okay, so and the bath is 1200 liters. 1200 liters in 40 minutes. The cold tap, also 1200 liters, but it only takes 30 minutes. Right, now we cannot add these at the moment, but if we can get them both per minute, right, if we can work out how much water is going into the bath per minute from the red tap, the hot tap, and how much from the cold tap, the blue tap, then we can add those things. So let's get a 1 here. To get a 1 here, we're dividing by 40. If we divide by 40 on this side, we must divide by 40 on this side. 30 liters per minute, right? The cold tap is actually going slightly faster. If we divide both sides by 30, we get 40 liters per minute. All right, now lastly, together. So this is both taps together. So this one is putting 30 liters every minute into the bath. This one's putting 40 liters. So together they will put 70 liters into the bath, okay, in 1 minute. Now, we want to get 1200 here, okay? And what must we do to get 1200 here? Well, we must get a 1 here first. How are we going to get a 1 here? We're going to divide both sides by 70. And how are we going to get from here to 1200? We're going to times both sides by 1200. So when we times 1 over 70 times 1200, we will get our final answer. Let's just bring that up on a... Okay, so 1 over 70 times 1200. Okay, and we get, it's actually about 17 minutes, just over 17 minutes. About, that's a symbol for about 17 minutes. Okay, which shouldn't surprise us because the cold tap on its own takes 30 minutes. The hot tap on its own takes 40 minutes. Together they will take less time. Okay, these questions, people don't find them easy, all right? But the answer, the secret is that you can only add rates. You can't add times. Okay, in the next lesson we're gonna start our module 4, which is decimals. We look forward to seeing you.